Will this episode come out before Kansas City plays a home game? Find out on this week's episode of the Indy Ball Report podcast. We're back again, episode 277 of the Indy Ball Report podcast, the only show that endeavors to hawk to this thing this week. So, how you doing, Ryan?
Now you go with the line. All right. I'm good, man. I'm doing Ryan stuff, whatever the hell that means.
Probably a felony.
Hot start from you. Oh, man.
It could be a felony. It could be slandering
now.
Women's basketball. We don't
Probably
know.
Could have locked in. Look, dude, Angel Reese can't shoot. That's all I'm saying. Anyway.
So we got one piece of kind of news to discuss, and then we got a bunch of mid reporting to do because it is the end of the month. That means we have to talk about the mid teams, which you would think when we talk about mid teams, we would talk about them in the middle of the month for symmetry reasons, but nah.
I don't even think that's symmetry, but I feel you. At the very least, yeah. I mean, alliteration reasons.
I suppose. Logical consistencies. So I want to start with the visa discussion, and then we'll go into the actual show, because I feel like the visa discussion is kind of just like a good preface when we talk about this, like talk about the teams going forward, meaning this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with whatever order. It's all chaos to me, dude. And there was chatter about, well, is talking visas like too dense to lead the show with? Like, buddy, do you know who's listening to this podcast? Like, do you know the type of people who are listening to Indie Ball podcast? They're people who are first of all, I'm not hating anybody. They're my type of people, obviously, from the person who's hosting the podcast. Volunteer. This ain't even my baby. I'm here because I need help. And
that means several things, by the way.
And yeah, I think this is completely appropriate. I mean, I think there's some people who just sat up in their chair a little bit and said, "Oh yeah, gotta talk to Visa on that thing." Damn, that didn't work as well.
Yeah, and all those people, I want you to know, they're also looking out the window going, "I hope this rain lets up so I don't have to pull tarp."
That's a disproportionate number. Also, shout out to the couple parents who are listening as well. Not my own, certainly.
Let's talk about Visa cards.
Max it out, baby.
Well, that's actually what's happening, because the costs have doubled from $500 to $1,000. This has created a whole issue with procuring visas for teams. We saw it with, I believe, Gary recently. That was really a bad problem. I'm seeing a little bit with Quebec more and more. Same with a lot of teams here. That's really all I got in my notes, outside of the third bullet point here that says hold the visa conversation. So I could tell you my mindset when writing that was, don't worry, Ryan's got this.
Honestly, I don't really have much on it. It just kind of an is what it is thing right now. There's not much to say. Unfortunately, it just kind of is the situation. It's where is this going to affect people? So did you get details on, and this is where my gap in knowledge slightly is this on all visas, or this visa transfer?
I do not know. I think it lists a specific type of visa. So I would imagine it's just the acquisition of.
Okay, interesting. Well, then I'm going to have to confirm that, because I was under the impression it was visa transition. So like basically if you get a visa guy and then you go to move him and he goes to another team, the cost of taking on that new visa, like transferring it from one employer to the other, because like your employer is tied to your visa, was what was increasing. However, I could be off on that one. I haven't gotten to do the follow-up I want to do on that one because I've been busy on a couple other things, but based on like my work with those visas, just like personally and also working for some teams, I mean, it adds up quickly. I mean, I think it's fairly common practice depending on your organizational mindset, because you can put multiple players on the same visa and just pay one payment. Like three guys on the same visa costs as much as one guy on the same visa on a visa. Yeah. As long as they're like submitted together. I've seen it before where teams put visas in later and risk, not having Academy in the season because they're trying to save a few $100 on the visa being sent in. Like, it's not ideal, but that's where we're at here. I mean, margins are thin, friends.
Yeah, I will say most of
things. So we're talking more than a few hundred on the uptick in price here. So that it's definitely going to make an impact. And if you're seeing roster moves happening or not happening for a certain reason, that might be why.
Yeah, I will say all I got on the situation just from the Times Union article, I'll link it in the show notes, and it does reference that P1A athlete visas were the main issue in acquiring, at least for one particular player for Tri-City.
Interesting. I mean, I could deep dive that for sure, but it's still, I think, relatively inexpensive is a loose term, but I think it's $400 to $500 for the visa. I do think it's a visa transfer that gets expensive. Like, we're talking like a couple grand, I think. You can also, don't get me started on how you can speed up the process, but just paying more. It's ridiculous. But, I mean, altogether though, it can run. I mean, the application's about 190. The filing is about 460. So yeah, you're looking about $650 now. I don't see that changing. I do think it might be more relevant to transferring that, but think about what that affects. It doesn't just affect whether I can move a guy once I have him. It affects that player and his desire to come over here because he might end up stuck. He can't smoothly move between teams in the league because his visa paperwork was already done, which was in the past. That was the nice thing. That's a routine question. It's like, what's his visa situation? It's on basically every transaction conversation. But it's also going to affect the thought process of bringing guys in the first place, because if you're going to be handcuffed with this guy because you can't transfer that visa over conveniently because nobody wants it, like, I mean, that's X number of roster spots that either you are just stuck with for the year, like he's a Rule 5 guy you got to keep on the roster, or a guy that you just got to eat the money and let it go if he doesn't turn out for you. Like, that's brutal.
It does create a problem with the dynamic in the roster building, and it does seem like a kind of problem that was harder to predict going into the season. But again, I think that is more of a cautionary tale about building your roster based off of visa players that already had question marks and issues surrounding them going into the situation.
That's a good observation, my friend. I'm always cautious about visa heavy teams. You need a balance there. It's very tempting to just go wild with it because our guys are happy coming to America for less money. You can get some really talented players that way, but not without a little bit of risk. And that's not to, speak in a way that might suggest I want to be like, don't get the foreign players in here. Like, no, I want everyone to have that opportunity, and I want to see the best possible players on the team. So, like, selfishly, I want everyone to get the best possible players, but it's a balance. It's a risk reward that can, if you want to put in the money, if you want to commit and you're okay with the consequences, well, there you go. But you are rolling the dice.
Certainly are. I think we have had a good conversation on visas, and we can talk about actual baseball now.
Let's go. Get it back on the field, baby.
We're going to talk about the Frontier League now. And we're going to work our mid-report in with each of these league recaps for the sake of keeping this thing moving.
I'm excited to be talking ball. Also, at the same time, I'm like, damn, really starting Frontier League, the only league I feel unprepared on a little bit right now. Actually, I'm feeling pretty unprepared on a couple. This is the most unprepared you might get me this season because I said I've been fairly busy this week, so I've been kind of keeping a more cursory eye on things, not writing up recaps.
I mean, I can understand why you'd feel unprepared about the Frontier League. It's not like last week we mentioned next week's going to be a Frontier week.
Buddy, I don't know what my week is going to hold. Like, it's not about not being ready, not knowing what's coming up on the podcast. It's not being able to set aside the time to do anything about it because my life is a garbage fire. And I am just a raccoon trying to salvage as much stale bread as I can.
So Quebec
like
and
Aladdin
Ottawa.
in that way.
Quebec and Ottawa are doing real good as of recent.
Yeah, they are.
The winning streaks. Great White North showing up.
Oh God! All right. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. I still am very confused by the sheer existence of Tri-City's roster.
This is a good show, I promise.
I mean, okay, first of all, and I'll say it's the same thing I said about York after Lancaster's streak. Shout out to New York, at least outlasting Quebec's win streak. Unfortunately for New York, Quebec is still red hot. And for the Revs, Lancaster completely fell apart after their win streak. So
we'll get to them in a minute.
Quebec does not appear to be doing the same. So the congratulations and the kudos does not feel the same for the Boulders. But as of right now, they're still a half game up, which is something.
Especially after not playing for 3 days.
Quebec is so good.
They are.
I mean, just horrifying.
Now, for regular fans of the show, what they're thinking right now is we're about to talk about Quebec. And they're getting ready for that hot soup.
Spit on that thing. Nice. Way to get there.
I'm just regurgitating tweets, spitting up tweets on that thing.
God. Well.
But yes, 9-1 their last 10, 4-game winning streak. That loss came to New Jersey, which I feel like should count for 3 losses, but that's a whole different thing.
That's fair.
Because it really does feel like in the East, there is 4 real teams, 3 just dog shit teams, and we're trying to figure out what Tri-City is.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, New York, legitimate team, but they're playing in their division, so, you know, they could be paper tiger. Quebec is Quebec. Right. They have enough of a history for us to firmly believe that this is not just beating up on garbage. They're actually that good. Ottawa, 8-2 in the last 10, 3-game winning streak, 6 above 500, and that record would put them in 4th in the West. So I'm willing to call them somewhat legit, a real team, I should say, for now. And the Rivers is what, like a game back of that, 1 less win, 1 more loss. So real team status for them, 7-3 in their last 10. What do you know? All the real teams have winning records in their last 10. And then you have like Tri-City, which just the wheels fell off the bus after they had that one streak where they won like 5 in a row.
Yeah.
And then there's like whatever the 2 New Jersey teams in New England are doing.
No, which and talk about different vibes, by the way, which is really funny because like we'll pause on the struggling teams over in the East real quick because I think it's fascinating because New England is something that you and I have not discussed enough. We need to do a deep dive in New England because this is crazy what's going on out there. Like this is a literal like, what is this organization like at a top to bottom level? What is this? And
the team
that no point does it seem wise. But then on the flip, you have Sussex, which by all reason should be good, but because of what has to be another deep dive behind the scenes is a disaster. And then you have the Jackals, which we expected to be a disaster, and like they can kind of continue to be a disaster, and we'll still be like, yeah, but like credit to Bert, he's working with an impossible situation. So It's funny because like one is like, are you going to fold tomorrow? The other is like, well, you need to get together. You're an anchor of this league. The other one is like, yeah, man, like keep doing you, and they're all like playing on this weird playing surface of just equally bad.
Yeah, because the thing with New England is like, we haven't talked about them because for forever, Oakland was the barrage balloon. But now Oakland, as we'll discuss when we get to the Pioneer League in an hour from now, has gotten it together. Seemingly, they're fine for now off the field. And on the field, they're actually a pretty decent ball club. So we're running out of reasons to even talk about them. They're at worst a mid team, which I don't think I have them written down as mid, but we'll again discuss later. And like, we don't really like, they're not in the news anymore. So now it's starting to like, yo, New England, what are you doing with your 500 fans a game that's inflated as hell? And
dude,
it's a very questionable situation. It's one that even in the offseason when we did talk about them, the most positive thing we said was, okay, it's kind of weird you switch from chowderheads to knockouts like that, but the logo came out nice.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of missteps between the GM, between the problem with the trademark on the brand name, which wasn't official, but we have a pretty good idea. Yeah.
We know.
Yeah. The deeply inexperienced coaching staff with a touch of nepotism on it. Then you have the extended delay on rolling out the actual logos and jerseys until essentially a week before opening day, which killed a lot of the hype and press for it. Supposedly, there's no real marketing around the team in the greater Brockton area, and they call themselves New England because they want to get the whole South Shore area there, but yet they don't really seem to market at all. And it's kind of weird you'd go for that when there's already a lot of baseball.
When you're not backing it up, like you're making a big picture marketing decision without any of the follow through, which I guess isn't that far into any ball, but still.
Yeah, which even still though, I would always recommend why don't you get the major, like main metro populous region first, and then we can worry about expanding outside of that, especially in an area that's known for having a lot of good summer college ball that's going to be cheaper, and having official minor league ball, which is probably going to draw more casuals in, and having on top of that the Boston Red Sox not that far from anywhere in Rhode Island or the state of Massachusetts. So, these are all things to point out at the moment. So questions abound there, but we'll ignore that for a second. Going to New Jersey, we buried them last year because it was a situation worth burying. It was sloppy and it wasn't good. They kept making missteps. This year, you named Burt manager in February, so the deck stacked against him to begin with, on top of the negative press and the fact the locker rooms look like high school locker rooms because they are, in fact, high school locker rooms, and the fact that there's an interesting setup at Hinchcliffe already makes it difficult, but then only having 2 months really to get your whole team together makes it that much more difficult. And I will say, in fairness, the Jackals had a stretch there where we were like, maybe. And I was like, oh, no, we got our hopes up for nothing. But again, first-year manager, we're not expecting a lot in the way of results. We're expecting it to be a learn and grow from this type situation. Yeah. So, again, you're 100% spot on with keep doing you. Let's make these mistakes together. And then there's Sussex County, where it's like, I don't even remember what we said in the Frontier League preview on them. I believe we did call them mid last time we did this, with the possibility of either jumping way up or just plummeting. We figured there's no way they'll just stay mid. And, well, in fairness, they didn't stay mid. They plummeted. So they don't really have the pitching to have the garbage hitting they have. Which is a harsh way of phrasing it, but I mean, like,
it is. You went for it.
Yeah, I'll be direct on the matter. It's like they're just not good.
Yeah.
I mean, you're hitting 246 as a team. Your on base is 332 as a team. And can I get the pitching number as a team? 445 ERA with a 1.5 whip, nearly 1.6. So what exactly are we doing?
Yeah. That's a big question for me.
Yeah. And I'll just finish with one last thing here. I'm looking at this roster. I'm like, Marcel can hit. Anu can hit, but isn't as productive as he has been in the past. Acton can hit, and that's really about it. Nobody else is really stepping up here. And I find that to be alarming and concerning on a lot of levels. And just looking at the pitching real quickly before I, actually let Ryan speak. There's a couple of guys here that look like bullpen arms that are solid, but I mean, there's always some really solid bullpen arms on just about every team. And I look at the pitching staff in the way of starters, and I'm not really seeing a whole lot there that I could claw on and say, yeah, these guys are good. I mean, Thornton absolutely has been a solid piece here, but there's not really much else in the way of starters that are producing well. So, I mean, like Ledesma could be fine as a 4, but right now he's kind of their 2. Brothers could be fine as a 5, but he's kind of their 3. So when you have 2 guys on the ERA over 5 in the rotation, it's going to be a rough draw when you have their kind of batting. So long and short of it is, Sussex is just kind of a mess this year. I'm not really as concerned on an organizational structure as I am with some of the other teams, just because they have enough of an organizational track record to back it up. But I am concerned if Jackal struggles are bleeding into minor struggles, given the ownership is the same. That is something that I will be concerned about until I see something that makes me feel a bit more at ease.
Yeah, I mean, let's also remember there was organizational turnover in the baseball operations role before the season, and it was fairly close before the season started too. I mean, there were rumors that, you know, Bobby was going to be potentially managing a team, one of the teams, and then all of a sudden he was gone. That was the story that we were kicking around behind the scenes. Like, do we want to run with this? Do we not? Do we want to break this? And I think I put it out there finally. And then, like, I mean, not a week later, he was gone. So something obviously went down there, leaving them in quite a spot. And there were a lot of, you know, late transactions with that in mind as well. So there's something going on there. And speaking of, I mean, I've always been a believer in, like, I'm biased, of course, but like, I think we talked about last week a little bit that I think there's value to a baseball operations person. If for nothing else, it takes some weight off of the manager or the GM, who would typically in this situation focus on, you know, the business side of things.
Yeah.
So
both really.
Right. So yeah, man.
It's just
something is not. I think it would be. I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt that you are. Essentially, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I think something is going on with this. I think it is very. I think it's strange how their success is given them a position where we tend to write off when they have struggles because they're not the Jackals, when, like, they are, though. If we're honest, like, they could. They are separated by a Christopher Columbus statue. Like, I've always been cautious about it. I mean, same thing I've cautioned with Charleston and Lexington. Like, we all laugh at Lexington's complete collapse as an organization. And I'm like, yeah, but that same owner is in Charleston. And you hear rumblings out of Charleston sometimes. I'm like, well, yeah, man, that'll happen. Like, the budget's going to be poorly run. I would say that is something to watch. And if I'm the league, man, that's something to watch. You cannot have more teams falling apart, especially like a legacy team that's been around forever. I know not in the Frontier necessarily, but within the Can-Am. Like, that's
about 10 years now.
Teams of established teams are not the ones you should be worrying about. You should be worrying about your team in New England that's crapping the bed constantly, and the fact that, like, if you want to expand, where would you go? You can't be worrying about, your established teams suddenly becoming a source of drama and headaches, which is funny because that's something that we're seeing in other leagues as well.
Yeah, it's just a mess there. And then, I mean, you go to Tri-City too, and there's question marks forming over there. Like, I think it started with the Taggart hire, and we've known that was kind of a questionable hire from the beginning. And, like, at points it's looked good, and then the rest of the time it's just like, what is going on here?
And I'll give a look back here because I don't want to speak incorrectly on this one. However, because Tri-City did have that run where we're kind of like, oh, okay, like, maybe we're missing something here. But it's hard to, as this is simply not giving me a Tri-City schedule. That's fine. I mean,
their run here came 2 against Sussex, 1 against Three Rivers. Yeah, and prior to that, there really isn't much of a run. There was a sweep against the Jackals and a win against the Boulders, and they took 2 or 3. Yeah, the run you're mentioning started, if we're going to be entirely honest, May 25th against Quebec. They took 2 against Quebec, lost an extra inning game against Ottawa, won the next 2, swept New England, or took 2 of 3 from New England, rather, my mistake. And then they swept the Jackals and took 1 from the Boulders. Since that point, they have a win against Evansville, a win against Three Rivers, 2 wins against Sussex, and another win against Three Rivers, and that's it.
Yes, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing. And we see a lot in the Frontier League right now because there is a big chunk of the league that just can barely keep up with everyone else. I think that's what a bad team looks like. When you have one good run during the year and it's against a bunch of teams, like, they took out 3 against Quebec, but that was before this current run, like what Quebec appears to be, and Quebec is beating some good teams on this run.
Yeah, that's bottom of the barrel Quebec, and then it's a bunch of flunkies. and a win against
Yeah.
the Boulders, which is like you're probably not going to sweep every series. So like if you're the Boulders, you're like, okay, we lost one on the road
Yeah,
on a travel day. Okay,
exactly. Yeah, that was my next point. So
yeah, like you win on a Friday, right when they get into town. Like, all right,
yeah, that's where I'm just. I don't know. I feel like I was just going really hard on both teams here that we talked about. That wasn't my intent, but like we were talking about the bottom of the standings. So I think the Boulders. I'm sorry, the Boulders. I was looking at that Boulder series we were just talking about. Tri-City, I think, is kind of what we thought they were at this point. I think I feel more comfortable saying that.
yeah.
I think bouncing way back to Sussex, I think Sussex is a concern. Also, their pitching stats. So right now they're fifth in the league in ERA.
Yeah,
they are not that good. Like that is not the pitching staff.
It's two or three guys propping that up.
No peripherals back that. Like I would say they're mid tier probably. They're fifth, sixth, maybe even back to eighth or sixth or like between
not
sixth and
seventh though.
That's not overwhelmingly best shutout. No, they're not. It's not terrible, certainly. But then keep in mind the back end is floated by the knockouts and the Jackals and even the Yalls, who've been a garbage fire this year. So
he says the Yalls have one more win than Evansville and Windy City.
Buddy, I'll say it about them too. Like, wait till
we'll get to the West in 1 second. But yeah,
I guess to summarize, I don't want to linger too long on it because I'm hammering home the same point. But yeah. I think, in summary, New England, I think once we hit the second half of the season, I think we can turn our focus to will this team exist next year? I think it's that bad. I think the Jackals are what we thought they were, and they're hanging in there. It's whatever. It's a bad look for the league, but it's whatever. And then I think Sussex is going to fall back for potentially even further than they've been. And I think the Boulders, I keep doing that. Damn New York teams. I think Tri-City will continue to sort of follow down that path more than. I don't think Tri-City sniffs 500 again this year. And quote that when they finish 5 games above 500.
Looking at the top half of this division, though, Three Rivers has really surprised me so far. I didn't really expect them to be above 500, so that's a very happy surprise. And Ottawa is slightly better than I expected. I thought they'd be kind of in the same boat that Tri-City is right now, record-wise it is, where they're like hovering around it, but they're not really there. So the fact that they're in a playoff spot really does, say something. I think it says a lot that the 3 Canadian teams
they're hot in the streets. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so that's always a positive here. We have a whole letter assortment. We have the team with the B, the team with the Q, the team with the OT, and then another one with an A. If you're got a letter, I mean, you're doing well.
Lots of letters in this league, frankly. You got the Uke all the way up the bottom of the West Division. Anyway, so here's what frustrates me too about these teams at the bottom, right? Because last year we had the frustrating experience of, ooh, this team might be really good, or have they just played 10 games against the Grays in 20 games? And so you constantly had to back check and be like, is this team actually good? Which isn't fair to them and sucks for everybody else. But like, I want to be like, yo, Trois-Rivières, like, cool, man. That's awesome. I'm excited for you. You deserve this. It's been a while. You've been through it. Ottawa, that's great. I love seeing this. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but half the division is like, we are saying teetering on the edge at the very best of being a garbage fire. So it's a bummer.
Like, you still got to beat them up, though. But I do see your point. I mean, like, they got handled by 3 West teams. Yeah.
It's kind of like.
Yeah. They've been, yeah. The good teams have all handled them.
Yeah.
So that is a concerning bit. I mean, they do have a prove-it opportunity coming up next week with 3 at the Boulders for the 4th of July setup. And then they have 3 at home against Quebec and then another 3 against Ottawa. So, I mean, that's a 9-game stretch that could really tell you a lot.
I mean, they're 6-4 against the top 3 in their division. They have not played Quebec yet. How many times did they play Quebec down the stretch? That's the question.
Counting
3 in July,
August.
3 more in late July.
3 in August.
6 in August.
Yeah, 6 in August.
So they have 12 Quebec games left. So we could learn something. That might get weird.
We call 500 a good time.
Yeah, dude. That's a good bounce back here.
All right. I meant 500 against Quebec, but yes.
Oh, God. I think 4 wins is a good result for them out of that one.
So when they sweep Quebec coming up,
it's fine. I'll still bet Quebec sweeps them back at some point, man. Quebec's wild.
Well, then they just have to win 2 to outdo your prediction there.
Go do it. Like, dude, ain't nobody's beating Quebec right now, so it's easy to say, like, oh, they got to do is beat them 6 times. I'm like, dude, Quebec has lost like 1 game in 3 weeks. Like, what are we talking about right now?
They also lost to New Jersey in that span.
They lost 1 game since June 8th. Is
to New Jersey.
28th. They've lost 1 game in 3 weeks. Literally. That was my exaggeration, and it's literally true. Now, for those of you listening to this on Saturday, if you turn your attention to the game starting at 7 o'clock tonight, you can watch Quebec lose their 2nd straight game to make me look like a moron.
Is there anyone in the West that will make you look like a moron?
Most of them. I'm not that smart, so it's pretty easy.
There's really there's a couple of points in the West. 2 are individual player points, and 1 was just a team point. I think largely at the top, things are still going as expected, and it's still chaotic there. So let's see how that shakes out.
I don't know if Washington is this good. I guess they are. Is Lake Erie this good? I don't know.
I think Lake Erie is. They're playing Gateway, tough teams and they're beating them up. Gateway, I don't know if they are this.
All 4 of these teams, I am like, damn, I think they could be good, but I could also see them collapse down the stretch and not be surprised. And collectively, they are 19 and 21 over the last 10 games. So I'm like, this tells me nothing. What is happening?
What's kind of funny is we've all been writing off Joliet with their B+ manager.
They're right there.
And the thing is, they have the same record as Tri-City, and we're just like, Tri-City's a garbage fire. They're going to collapse. I mean, we're looking at Joliet, and we're like, they're in this.
But Joliet's kind of outperforming. Like, no, hold on. That's not it. Let me reverse that technically. I think Tri-City, based on taking advantage of bad teams, is outperforming their true talent. I think Joliet is probably a little bit better, or at least right about who they are. Like Pythagorean likes Tri-City, but I think that's because they're tacking runs on a bad team. Like that kind of shows. So you can look at the Pythagorean, which is like based on runs scored, runs allowed. What should your record be essentially? And they're 2 games. They're a -2 run differential. So they're 20. They're 500 with that. They're currently 2 games below 500. But I think that sometimes it says like actually like they're probably better. You can see a Pythagorean win-loss record that is better than their real record and say, oh, so like actually there might just be on some bad breaks, but they're probably better than the record suggests, so they could have improved. I see that based on what we know about their schedule and say, yo, they beat the P out of some teams that are less than them, and they are just not, they don't have enough to get it done, especially like against these top teams that we're trying to compete with. That's where the difference is. Joliet, if nothing else, they are who they are. I got way into that. I was like, I'm not ready to talk Frontier League today. I
do want to mention the Florence Y'alls. I think it's the last point really in the West I want to make. I know we kind of skipped over the West as a whole, but
yeah,
I mean, they're a competitive division. Even their bad teams really aren't like, oh God, shudder them bad.
Fair.
The Y'alls of 7-3. They've put together a nice little win streak here. They're 18-23, half game back at Joliet that we just spent some time on. 9 games out of the division and 5 games back, really getting in the hunt for the playoffs. Is this legit? Is this just beating up on bad teams? What's the deal with them?
Florence. I really want Florence to be good. I had my favorite Twitter action of the week because I tweeted something about how like if a team has back-to-back losing seasons, I'll be the first one to be like, hey man, maybe it's time for the manager to go. And then like in the same breath, I'm like watching Florence lose and I'm like, I would literally die for Chad Rhodes, who's a man I've never met. And like Chad liked the tweet, which is funny and self-aware. So I like everything about Florence, which is like basically how I start every Florence conversation. Florence beat Schaumburg 2 out of 4. They beat Joliet 2 out of 3. That's really impressive. They They are beating the teams they should beat. That's the big Florence thing right now. They weren't early in the year, and I think that's where their turnaround stems from. They beat up Windy City a little bit, and that kind of got some things corrected. You would have liked to see them take 2 out of 3 from Lake Erie. They came a run short in one game. They came 2 runs short in another game. So they were close. Something seems to be improved from where they were. Something seemed broken with this team a little bit. They had a really tough stretch there where they opened Quebec, Windy City. They luckily caught Quebec when they were, early season struggles. So whatever, but dropped 2 to Schaumburg, got it pushed in real bad in the one game. Gateway did finance Evansville, and then it was Lake Erie, Washington, Schaumburg. Brutal stretch straight into an Evansville series, which they dropped 2 out of 3, I think, because they were getting worked on that road trip with Schaumburg. Then they bounced back with Windy City, almost took 2 out of 3 with Lake Erie. So here's what I'm saying. All that to say, I think they are better than their record suggests. I think this is a better team they have last year. I would constitute this as growth. I don't see them breaking 500, but I don't see them. If I can make a prediction, I would say they're not going to go 500 this year, but they're 436 win percentage right now. I think they finish better than that. That's my optimistic prediction. It might be a little optimistic. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I think they're a better team.
Important that they're having this stretch right now, if for nothing else, just for morale and confidence in the process. Do I think they are this good? Probably not. And I think they're going to get smacked around in the coming days. I mean, with Gateway on the hump and Washington and then New York, that's a tough 6-game stretch. I don't have high hopes for that. A reprieve playing New Jersey, but then right back into the grinder with Washington, Lake Erie. So I think it kind of comes to an end sooner than later. But that being said, I think overall it's important. I kind of agree with you. I think 500 may be a little optimistic here, but finishing a game or 2 under, say maybe around a 485, 486 winning percentage, I think is certainly in the realm of possibility.
Here's my thing, and I actually don't go as high as you do on that one, but
okay.
I think, again, right now they are doing a good job beating teams they should beat, and while they do have a tough stretch coming up, I feel like, and this is off the top of my head, I can do a quick scroll down. They finished the season with, working backwards here, they have Gateway last, but then before that, Schaumburg, and then Joliet, then Schaumburg and Gateway. Jesus, what's with your schedule, guys? All right, before that, we're in August now. Evansville, Windy City, Joliet. And then they got Joliet. So I got Joliet 3 times like over the last month this season. So depending on what Joliet is at that point, that could be good or bad. Evansville a couple times late. Evansville a good bit late. They still have 9 Evansville games left, 9 Joliet games left. A Sussex series. So they have some winnable series still. So we'll see if they can keep taking 2 out of 3 off of teams you should take 2 out of 3 out of, then they're on their way. I'd see them more probably finishing 40. I don't know, like 45 wins maybe. That's a good year. I think that's a 7-win improvement off last year if they can do that.
Yeah, like I said, I think overall they're more encouraging this year than they are in the past.
Sir, we need to move faster.
I know. There's 2 guys I want to make.
But we did say there would be Frontier League talk today, so we're delivering on a promise.
Exactly. I want to give them leadoff status. And 2 guys I want to mention would be Caleb McNeely and Buddy Pindell. I really think both of them are really producing a lot. I think there's a discussion we'll have, probably not this week, just for the sake of time, but Buddy Pindell or Jack Eisenbarger, who is a better pitcher, at least this season. I think that's a conversation we'll have at some point. But Caleb McNeely, 10 home runs, 47 RBIs, leading in 2 Triple Crown categories, and I believe he's a shade under 300 batting-wise in 40 games. So, realistic, and he steals some bags, 15 bags in 39 games. I mean, that's solid. So, overall, nice little productive piece there for Washington that we don't really mention when we think of, like, really good quality frontier leaguers, but he is certainly one of them, and also, I believe, Workington got named captain in Joliet this past week too. So congrats to Matt for that. But to wrap up do you have any, first off, before we get to the wrapping this up part, Caleb McNeely, any strong opinions on him?
No, not yet. I haven't gotten to watch a Frontier League game in about 7 days because my schedule's been chaos. So next week's a big watching Frontier League. Watching all of games. I've been binging at like 2 a.m. while also doing other stuff. So I got to like sit down and actually watch the guy play again because it's been a couple weeks. But I'll probably come with some takes next week on that one. This is going to be a big focus on some individuals type of week.
All right. Then the last point before we go to the Atlantic League would be sorting out the mid teams. Last time we did this a month ago, we had Ottawa, Sussex, Three Rivers, Tri-City, Windy City, and Joliet listed as mid. Who are we putting in the mid now? I will open up by saying I think Tri-City's still in the mid category. I would still say Three Rivers is in the mid category. I need to see a little bit more of them. Florence, I think, has maybe risen into mid. I keep Joliet and Windy City there as well. And I'm willing to open a debate on Ottawa if they should remain or not.
So from my perspective, I think obviously you got to discount on the high end Quebec, Lake Erie, New York, Washington. That's fair. Okay.
I'm willing to pass Schaumburg off too.
Okay.
I don't think Schaumburg's mid. I think Schaumburg and Gateway both escape mid allegations.
I can meet you with Gateway. Oh, I'm sorry. I can meet you with Schaumburg.
Right.
Gateway, I think, is in flux. Obviously, you're going to knock off New England, New Jersey.
Yeah.
As low. I think Windy City, Evansville, Sussex. So, yeah, my middle teams are Florence, Joliet, Tri-City, Trois-Rivières, Ottawa, Gateway. Those are the ones I have in the middle.
Right. So, Florence, we agree on. Joliet, we agree on. Windy City, we agreed on? Or did we say they were?
I have them below.
Okay. Ottawa, we said was mid?
Yeah, mainly because Windy City's been getting worked by Florence lately.
All right. So, Ottawa and Tri-City were both in the mid?
Yeah, for now. But they're definitely on the borderline. And
okay.
I got Gateway at the borderline right now. And I had Schaumburg on the borderline too, but I'll meet you halfway on that one personally.
And the thoughts on Three Rivers being mid?
About the same as Ottawa. I mean, I just think I need to see them play some of the tougher ends of the schedule just to, I think by this time next month, I'll certainly have an idea.
Okay. So we're saying, so just to make this straight, so that way I know it's, even though it's Pride Month, we got to make it straight. Just so that way I have all this in order. Tri-City is mid.
Mm-hmm.
Three Rivers is mid.
Yes.
Ottawa is mid.
Yeah.
Florence is mid.
Yeah.
Joliet's mid.
With room to improve all of them or to fall below. But for this month, I have them as mid.
Okay. So we'll keep Windy City and Evansville as below mid, as well as the bottom three teams we spent a lot of this time talking about. And anyone else not named is above mid for now.
Yeah, I'm fair. I'm happy with that one. That's fair.
All right. Perfect. So we'll move on to the Atlantic League now. There's stuff to talk about here. York clinched the division.
Yeah.
Lancaster kind of collapsed.
Tailspin. Yeah.
Exactly. Honestly, I got to be real. York and Gastonia are the only two teams of doing anything of value this week.
What? Yeah, that's worth discussing. I think the Atlantic League is bad right now. Like it's
not good baseball.
Bad. It's bad. Thank you. It's bad baseball. Like there are a lot of hard to watch games right now. Yeah. Gastonia and High Point put on bangers constantly. Props to them. High Points would be more impressive if they weren't constantly dealing with Gastonia, and Gastonia keeps beating them by a run. No. Did again tonight. Staten Island is beating the Stormers right now, but they have not been able to beat anybody. They've lost several straight series. They've been a disaster.
In fairness to them, they've also been getting rated as of recent, so that's a tough road to walk.
That ship was in danger before that, though. That ferry was in some trouble before that. I've been tracking that one.
It may have been stormy waters, but this is something.
Stormers are, I don't know what to do with that.
500 ball, baby. They're gearing up for that second half run.
Maybe, I guess. I don't know.
In fairness, that 15-game winning streak's doing a lot of lifting.
I mean, yeah, without that, say they split that thing 8-7, They're 21-36 right now.
Still better than
They're
Hagerstown.
They're a 500 team who had a winning streak of 15 games and they're 56 games in. Like, that is winning every game for over a quarter of the season you played so far, and you're just now 500. Like, what is happening?
Let's bring me to another point I had on here, which is losing Christian Santana has really hurt them.
Oh my God, right?
Because I mean, you
Never
look
let that guy leave.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him; he's still leading for batting average, and he's still what third? No, now he's third in RBIs, and he hasn't played in 2 weeks.
We are about halfway into the season. By the time we talk next, we'll be halfway. Is this when we start discussing the Ducks, or do we give them a couple weeks in the second half to see what's up?
The reason why we're not discussing the Ducks isn't because they don't deserve to be discussed. It's because I have a first half review for next week. So I think that they have a week to pull their ass out of the water on this.
Quack, quack. Hagerstown is what it is, first year team, so I'm not going to be critical there. But yeah, like just looking at those three, Lancaster, Staten Island, Long Island, like York, no, I don't want to take away from York. York's been through it. York deserves this because they got screwed last year. But I mean, York is playing nobody in this division right now. It's kind of weird. Meanwhile, Gastonia, to be fair, looks like they're playing nobody, but High Point's just very good. To be fair, High Point's very good, and they just are very good.
Point on York, like only two teams are playing somebody this week, and it's Gastonia and High Point who are playing each other.
Right, that's fair.
Yeah, like even I'm looking at a 7-3 stretch for Charleston right now. I'm like, yeah, but like, who are you beating?
I'm with you there. Charleston is heating up. They won a few series in a row, but they got something to show still because, I mean, what are we doing? That's always what it's come down to. But here's the thing. So, all right, my first take on that is it is not a good state for what is considered to be the best team in indie ball to have only 40% of the league. No, call it 30% of the league. 3 teams that if somebody beats them, you go, oh, all right. Everyone else is like, yeah, probably. Like either you're both bad or yeah, it's a bad team. Of course you beat them. Like,
yeah, see,
that's a concerning state of affairs. And I don't, and it's so weird because I'm an Atlantic League homer because it was the first league I covered, so I have more in-depth knowledge of things. And I pay attention because I'm right around multiple teams.
He gives the old buck two to the Atlantic League.
I hate you, and I don't know.
And you're not fighting the
when this happened. Like, I can't put my finger on
it. Here's the thing. I got to be real. And I think it may partially be due to the Mexico factor.
True.
But I just feel like across the board, with the exception of the Pioneer League, the quality of ball is down this year.
Dude, it is. I know.
It's a down year. It's a bad year. And see, that's why like some people will go, well, you just showed why Gastonia shouldn't be ranked 1. And the thing is, like, everyone's playing they're still beating, like, their scrubs are still better than every other team, every other league scrubs. And like everybody's beating up on somebody. I mean, like, you're gonna sit here and tell me first off, there's only 3 real teams in the American Association right now. There's going to be a lot in the mid category when we get to that conversation in 15 minutes. But like, we just went through an hour on the Frontier League explaining, like, yeah, there's 5 real teams here.
Yes, and when I look at this league, and there is, I understand the argument also with what we were just saying with in passing, even with Gastonia, like, should they be number 1 in our top 10 this week? Who the hell are they playing? The answer is they're playing High Point, and that's legit, and I'm confident in it. I would say if you're not sure about that, I'd invite you watch them play, like watch Gastonia and High Point play each other, watch them play other teams. There is they were playing chess while their teams are playing checkers right now. I firmly am like, they are to the point where, and this sounds like we are giving the huck to Brady here, but there is something to be said for the fact that High Point and Gastonia, with a few exceptions where they have like guys get signed or whatever, pretty much running circles around the league right now. And they are one, it's clear that's a roster construction thing. It is not only quality of players but a depth. And then when they play each other, it is clear just how much better Gastonia's roster construction is than High Point. It's noticeable. And I joked about how they just keep beating High Point by one run. They went to 3 walk-offs last week, but that you can say it's a coin flip, and that is a popular thought process. But also, it shows that late innings, when you need a guy to get it done, Gastonia's guys get it done because they know the strings to pull, they have the depth, and they know when to utilize it. High Point's not saying they don't. It's just that Gastonia does it better. So that's why Gastonia is number one. But yeah, York, it's hard to knock them for just the rate they're winning at. But
York does make a compelling argument because, like you said, with the rate and the fact that right now they also have probably the prohibitive MVP candidate favorite on there with Washington, which is the guy I did want to mention here. It would have been Santana if he had stuck around, and he still could come back. But I'm pretty sure he's doing very well in Mexico. I think he's breaking down there.
I saw that too.
Yeah, I don't see him coming back. So a dude that has 23 home runs and 59 RBIs in 50 games, 60 games, 48 games, and he's now hitting over 300. Great, that dude's gonna win it, and he's probably a favorite for Baseball America's Player of the Year. So
they love a home run over there.
They do. I mean, that's kind of the quickest way. Look at all the guys that get named for that.
Yeah.
Between Court and Kia, it's we like the big ball. But even still, it's an extremely impressive bit. You look at the batting average list, because, I'm a big batting average guy. It's 2 Long Island guys, Christian Santana, York. A 353 hitter, a 336 hitter, a 326 hitter, a 315 hitter, a 308 hitter in Washington. When half of your starting 9 is batting over 300, I don't care how much you value the stat that tells you, hey, at worst, they're getting on base, which means they're producing runs. And it really helps when you have a really nice power guy that's probably going to have 1 or 2 guys on base when he gets up. And it's he may strike out a lot. That's going to happen. But when he doesn't, he's driving in a run. Yeah.
I mean, the league average is 262. They're hitting 22 points above league average with batting average. It's silly. I'm just laughing once again at the fact that David Washington is striking out in 41% of his plate appearances.
So wait, quick math. If it's not what's the percentage of the time it's not a strikeout or a home run?
If we're talking plate appearances, 51% of his plate appearances are strikeouts or home runs. If we're talking at bats, we're talking 57.5% of his at bats are strikeouts or home runs.
So,
what's the 3 true outcomes on this thing? So hold on.
So it's a coin flip whether or not he's going to strike out, hit a home run, or other result. And if it's not a walk, then it's you should be putting your money on strikeout or home run.
Yeah, dude, it's 68% 3 true outcome.
Wonderful. But so the point more or less is that York has a lot of really good high-end talent that's put throughout the whole lineup. I like the Gastonia's team. There's definitely some guys. I think Gatewood immediately jumps to mind. Justin Wiley's been performing for a while, going back to his time in New Jersey. He's really thriving in Gastonia now too. So huge props to him. So you have that argument of top end talent versus beating, I guess, slightly better teams going in there. But ultimately, it's going to be an Atlantic League team at the top until we see an American Association team kind of separate from the pack, or at least the general quality of the league go up. Although I will say, do you know how much money it would cost for me to watch Gastonia play?
How much?
$30
$30 a month. Mm-hmm.
30 a month?
Also, shout out to Jack Reinheimer, by the way, getting picked up by Cubs straight to AAA, by the way. 2 for 6 to start. But I just don't know. I don't know what teams look for anymore, man. I'm confused. He had an 806 OPS in 2022 with Gastonia. He had a 935 last year, though he didn't play part of the year with Kansas City, it's minor league. But this year's 750 OPS, 269. 269, 356, 394. Underwhelming slash picked up. Sure. Straight AAA. Sure. That's not
They're
anti-Jack.
looking for,
Jack is well deserved. Like he should have already been signed.
also has major league experience too, but they're looking for
Facts.
6'2" finance.
Jack Reinheimer's hot boy summer continues. Oh man,
Right.
where are we here?
Let's get to these mid teams here so we can keep moving.
Right.
Last time we had Long Island, Lancaster, and Southern Maryland in the mid. I think all three of them remain there solidly, and I think we have some new additions in Charleston and Staten Island as well.
Yes, let me see what I'm thinking here. I was pulling up standings here, jog my memory. So
yeah, essentially Hagerstown and Lexington below mid, York, High Point, and Gastonia above mid.
Yeah, I'm giving it. Yeah, Lexington and Hagerstown definitely below. York, Gastonia definitely above. I will go down to High Point on that one too, because I think High Point is, if you take us, so that's a tough one though. I'm like, if you take Gastonia out of it, High Point's record's much better. I'm like, yeah, but High Point's a good team, so if you're not beating them, what does it say?
Exactly.
That's where I do struggle.
Thing is, so you can't divorce High Point from Gastonia, because you could then turn around and be like, yeah, well, if you take away these High Point games against Gastonia.
Right. That's
and vice versa there too. It's like, yeah, well, they kind of play each other. So if we're going to sit here and be like, well, they're not winning games against each other, it's like, well, yeah, it's the only real competition that's there, and they're all one-run games. So like, I'm not really overly concerned here. If one of them's mid, then the other one's mid, and I think we can confidently say one of them is at least not mid. So ergo post hoc.
I really thought High Point and Gastonia had played a little more, if I'm honest with you. I forgot they only played 6 times. It's crazy. Wow. Everything runs together, but they're 5-1. Gastonia is over High Point right now. So,
I have a hard.
So I'll give them. I'll not put them as mid. That's too far. That's a bridge too far. But I'd expand the mid allegations all the way: Southern Maryland, Staten Island, Long Island, Charleston, Lancaster.
Instead, okay, yeah, no. So we're in a lockstep agreement then. Everyone that's not York, Gastonia, or High Point, or Hagerstown, Lexington is mid.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So we're in lockstep there. A lot of mid teams. We'll continue to a league that has a lot of mid teams in the American Association.
Another one.
That's right, DJ Khalid.
Let's see. I don't know. I might be a little more decisive on things than you are at this point.
Sioux Falls and Fargo still fighting atop the West. Are we going to call this the only interesting race here? The problem is, I'll say it, everyone but Sioux Falls and Fargo in the West is mid as hell or below mid. And like, there's no prayer that they're going to wind up taking over first place in that division. And yeah, you could argue the playoff race is kind of interesting because, Winnipeg is sabotaging themselves and Sioux City isn't bad enough to get thrown out of this race. But then you look in the East and you're like, the playoff positioning race is interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of what you got.
Yeah. And
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just like, again, deeply uninspired.
Yeah.
Deeply uninspired. Oh, God.
Is this the worst indie ball podcast? We're just like, wow, this is not entertaining.
You shouldn't watch this shit.
Just keep coming to the podcast.
Show.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know when there's something exciting happening.
Yeah. But yeah,
so,
I think that's part of the charm of this show is we're just objective about where we're like, there's times where there's really good ball being played, and there's times where it's just like, what are we doing here?
I like the going into tonight, I guess. Let me check the record on it. But I think going into tonight, Sioux Falls still had less games played than Kansas City did, despite the field debacle. Because Sioux Falls has had just like a ton of random postponements and all like later in the year, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, now they're even at 40 apiece.
That's a lie. Only one of them. Wait, that's still weird. They've played a lot of their makeup games. I wonder why they're so far behind. A deep dive for a different time.
They're not that far behind. They're like 3 or so games back. I mean, a lot of teams are actually sitting at 40.
No, I agree. I just think it's funny because I expected to look at the games played and for Kansas City to be sitting way down the bottom. I was like, oh, you're not. You have company. Though after, I don't know, who knows? That's a conversation we'll have to have. But Yeah. So what are you thinking? Where are we? What are we discussing even at this point? Other than the fact that, like, yeah, there's not much in the playoff race going on other than Winnipeg, Sioux City. But can we discuss? We talked about it last week. We don't need to talk about a bunch this week. Lincoln.
Yes.
Good God.
I'm going to agree for the Lincoln conversation for right now, solely for the reason of we've already abandoned all hope in this being a positive show. So we might as well just get all the negativity out.
We're talking about who's mid, so yeah, it is kind of tough.
Yes. Lincoln, man, this is another team that really is about to lose their Oakland barrage balloon because they're not New England. This may fold bad, but they're certainly reaching Sussex County. Like, what are we doing over there, boys? Kind of bad because, like, what are we doing?
Yes, right. I mean, they have good staff. They have people with track records of winning.
I mean, we've talked about it a little bit in the past where it's like, this is clearly not a team that's going to spend the cap.
I mean, Lincoln's not spending their money right now. We'll call it what it is. I mean,
yeah,
what's going on there? Yeah. And
now, why they're being cheap is a whole nother conversation.
Is the association the type that's going to give them a tug and remind them that this is a competitive league where you play to win? And
I believe that's the slogan, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't believe it is anymore. I think it's something else. I forget what it is, but it's something about like fun or whatever. But they've backed off a little bit once they embraced all the rule changes. But that's fine. They embraced good rule changes, so it's okay. We're not gonna we play for love of the game.
Love of the game. Yes,
I also don't know that Lincoln's doing that.
Well, I mean, they have a guy that's batting below the Mendoza line playing every day, so I don't think he's having fun.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be either. I'll tell you this. So I just mentioned the fact that I've had a more like passive involvement in Indie Ball for the past week, just because my own schedule was crazy and I wasn't doing stuff with my own Indie Ball Nation stuff. I had all three by chance Sioux Falls Lincoln games on because I'm fascinated by the Canaries, and they lost. They got swept by the Canaries 3-2, 6-2, 6-2. I have never been so disinterested in like fairly close games. Like they were on the background while I was working. It was like not unwatchable. It was just like not exciting. There was nothing. There was nothing there that was like Lincoln could come back and get them. It was 3-2. I was like, well,
this rotation is abysmal.
Is it even that? They've scored 7 runs in 4 games against Sioux Falls and Gary.
Oh no, the batting's horrible too, but I'm just looking at this pitching staff. I mean, like presumably the ace of their staff, Harris, 5'10".
I like that though. Short king.
No, I started correctly. We have 5'10", a 5'43", a 5'65", and then a 691 with a bunch of random fillers in there, some of which are doing better, like Beck with a 450. And they've started using Pace, who has a actually good ERA, a 105, light FM. But outside of that, there's some bullpen guys. We have Dan Kubiak at home and Zaz, and they had a batter position player throw 3 innings, and that went okay. And then McCabe, and then they have problems. But I think the problem is just a shitty baseball team.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, part of the problem is I think it's just there's not enough lineup. I mean, they got a good core. They got Roscom, Henson, Takix, and Dragom in the lineup. They bat 3.36, I think, most days is what I saw this week. But that's not a lineup does not make. Is that what I was going for? Sure. Or I think they might have been going 2, 3, 4, 5 a lot. Doesn't matter. The point is that leaves, by my math, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 as fairly easy outs, which is a problem because you're going to want more than 4 guys hitting your lineup on any given day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the lineup construction of that isn't bad. Roscom hitting on the back end, and that's smart, in my opinion. I think Roscom's more of a power threat than we give him credit for, but I also don't think he has really put up the numbers they should be putting up. Different conversation, Tyler. But I'm not. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of issues going on there. I can move on from Lincoln right now because I know we're covering the whole mid-report thing, but that might need to be a revisit because it's just it is very strange.
They're definitely going to be one more next week because I'm pretty sure everybody is at about the halfway mark point when we do the show next week. It's definitely going to be one that when we actually take the time to stop and pause and talk about each of these teams, it's going to be a conversation because there's really only 3 or 4 performers on, do I say the whole team or do I say on each side of the ball? Because I think there's an argument made either way. And that's just, it's not going to work there. Flip side, though, I do want to talk a little bit about Kane County slowly moving up the chain. I can't tell if this is a team where it's like they're very unimpressive, but they're the best of what's there, or if this is actually a good team. I'm kind of inclined to say a good team, but I don't really know if I have a reason to say that, especially after losing 2 to Gary, who's having a renaissance, by the way. Note how after we dragged them a little bit, they started playing better. Remember, kids, if you want your team to play better, let us drag you.
Yeah, tell me about it. It's through my life. Let me see. Sorry, I was looking one up there. It's just, anyway, I'm still shaking my head at the Lincoln situation. I know I need to move on. I'm fine. I need to move on. Just as long as they're, no, because I need to say one more thing. I'm not done. I just want to shout out Seth Miller, who pitched well. He's interesting to me. He's one of those guys who's like a low K guy, but he gets a lot of outs. He's got low 3 ERA right now. And I'll say it again. Dan Kubiak, still viciously disgusting. 16 2/3 innings right now. What was that? 2 earned runs, 3 earned runs, something like that. He had 1 game where he had 3 earned runs. Hasn't given up any earned runs outside of that.
Dan Kubiak too.
Dude, I love him. He's so good. Anyway,
I would die for him.
I am sorry for the sidetrack. Where were we?
We were about to talk about if Kane County is a Fugazi, a first place team, or a legitimate one. Yeah. I lean kind of legitimate, but I could be swayed either way. The thing with Kane is like, but go on these runs, right? Where they'll win like 5 of 6, 7 of 9, and you'll think like this is a legit team, and then they'll just drop 2 of 3 to teams they should be beating up, or they just won't have very impressive wins against those teams. And it's like, I don't know what to make of it. Like this weekend, actually, they're going to have 3 against Sioux Falls at Sioux Falls. So maybe we could get some sort of headwind on that, but then they play some teams that we're almost certainly going to classify as mid. So I don't know what to make of them. Also, we briefly mentioned a Gary Renaissance, but I don't think there's too much more to add to that other than they're playing better. Good for them.
True. They did just drop 2 out of 3 to Gary. Yeah. But then they beat Lake Country before that, who were kind of 50-50 on. They got 2 out of 3 from Kansas City, but that's a whole other conversation. Swept Chicago, and Chicago's been hot and cold.
Yep.
Really depends on when you catch Chicago, by the way. That's a huge thing. We should look at that at some point. But King County, though, like lose. I don't know. I mean, they don't have a ton of impressive wins. They got 2 out of 3 against Lincoln, but that was what, late May? Does that count as anything? Yeah. That's just awesome. Yeah, I think we got to see what they do against, was it Sioux Falls and Kansas City and then Chicago again? Yes. And then they got 6 against Cleveland. Honestly, that's a good show me stretch right there.
Yeah.
15 games, and then they go Fargo.
But Fargo also just lost to Alcantara, though, and that's a big piece to lose.
Yeah, but still, I mean, 24-16 is 24-16. We'll see how much that shakes them. That could be an interesting series, but that's damn near 3 weeks from now. So who knows?
That's a far time out.
We will start learning. I was about to say, wow, they really haven't played a lot of quality competition. Well, that's because it's over the next 3 weeks. Surprise! There it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Gary, real quick, because I know we talked a lot about Gary in the past 2 weeks, probably more than we've ever talked about Gary before.
Yeah. We'll keep it short.
Yeah, we'll keep it short and sweet. Impressed with their run as of recent. Beat up on Winnipeg, beat up on Kane County, beat up on Lincoln. They got Winnipeg again coming up here, and then it looks like they have Milwaukee. These are all home games. What are we thinking about for Gary? Is this going to continue, or are they just, getting a dead cat bounce, so to speak?
I think whenever you want to get good, you have us talk about how you're not good. I mean, what now? They've won 7 out of 9. Sounds like we kind of gave them the bump, dude.
Yeah, 8-2 in the last 10.
3 straight series wins, including a sweep of the Winnipeg.
Yep. And their 2 losses in their last 10 have been 1-run losses.
Hey.
And the 11-10 loss from Wednesday went into extras, and they fought back a lot. There was a lot of fight in that. So, well, I'll be interested to see how this goes. Interesting week coming up for them.
Crazy.
Yeah, they have Winnipeg, they have Kansas City, and they have Sioux Falls all this week. So let's see if it keeps it up. I have no doubt they'll take 2 or 3 from Winnipeg at least.
Right.
But let's see if this keeps up.
Yeah.
Oh. 2 other player points, and then we will be good to go to the mid part. Do we consider O'Grady the D-wash of the American Association?
We get a reminder on where his numbers were lately. Because, he is smashing baseballs every time I see him, but that's because I see him in box scores.
Strikeouts, a lot of home runs.
I don't know, man. Jacob Teeter's nasty.
That was the other guy I was going to mention.
Yeah, it gets
because I want to have
hard.
a conversation. He's definitely an MVP candidate and kind of the guy I would lean towards for right now. But he's at the same time, I can't tell if he's underrated or just under talked about.
Chicago is kind of a weird thing that people aren't really talking about in general.
Although you normally hear screaming around those parts.
Screaming and crying, baby. No further comment on that. Josh Raywalt, by the way, is really starting to hit a run right now. So he looked good this week in the Sioux Falls games I saw. So I think there's a lot more competition at the top right now. Tom Dillard's still doing the damn thing. If we're going to be talking about, guys with some pop. Dude.
My more great
Mikey Chisato still is an extremely good name. Yeah, and there's also good numbers, but
the Tostado Fiesta Bowl is
374.
But I will say this much: my point on O'Grady was more or less he's the same player mold, though.
Oh, okay, I can see that then. Sorry for all that, but
it's kind of sidetrack into how
he wishes he struck out the same way, dude. He's had 30 less at bats than Dave Washington. And he has 50 less strikeouts. He wishes he could do what Dave Washington was doing right now.
Yeah, but in the same way where David Washington's going to win the Atlantic League MVP, Brian O'Grady is most certainly not going to win the American Association MVP. Unless we have a disagreement about that.
Probably not.
I just kind of more line up with Jacob Teeter on that. I like him better, partially because he's up there in each of the 3 major categories. Plus,
he's got almost 100-point OPS lead.
Yeah. I also think the environment he's doing it in is more impressive.
Yes.
Also, one of them's a former major leaguer, the other one isn't.
Right. And I think if we look at
the Washington comparison on that point, but
if we look at the sort of regular players in the OPS rankings right now, that don't play at Sioux Falls, sorry, Josh, you got to go down 134 points in OPS to get to the second guy behind him that doesn't play for Sioux Falls, and that's Scott Odo with a 990 OPS. Kind of wild.
Yeah.
Teeter's putting up them numbers.
He's a dude. He's underreported. He really is.
It's weird. Huh.
Come the end of July or beginning of August, we're going to have to do a MVP race thing.
And 4 steal attempts. 4 successful steals. Pick your spots, kid. Go off.
Love it. All right, let's keep it moving. Mid teams here. Last time we had Sioux City, Winnipeg, Lake Country, Chicago, and Milwaukee. Where are we looking to update this?
Okay. So I feel like you and I might differ a little bit. I feel like you're mid-heavy. I kind of have it separated a little more. I've got, let me double check. I got Sioux Falls, not mid. These are my not mid teams.
Okay.
On the positive side. So Sioux Falls, I'm saying Fargo, King County.
Great on Thrift Story.
Let me see. Oh my God, my brain does not want to work. Oh God, we're going to disagree on one, so I'm going to hold that for a second. Did I say King County? I think I did.
Yeah, King
Cleveland
County.
was the other one. I have a hard time not putting
Agree on that
Milwaukee in.
one.
I'm going to put Cleveland in.
I have Cleveland as a mid team.
Yeah, maybe. I
Might
can
argue
go Cleveland mid.
they're just so
If I go
inconsistent, man.
Cleveland mid, I might have to go Fargo mid, which is crazy for a team half game out of the first.
See, I disagree with that. I think Cleveland gets away with the fact that they're Cleveland. They play in Cleveland. They have a more offensive focused group. I may be mistaken, but I don't think their pitching is all that impressive. And nearly a 5 ERA as a team. It's skewed at the top because we've got guys. But Kristen Scott's good. Pachu's good. Washington's good. McDowell's good. There's some good. Their bullpen's good, and they have a couple of starters that get the job done. But not. Johnston starting games is a problem.
All right. So we'll say definitely King County, Fargo, Sioux Falls on the high
Yeah,
end.
we
right?
agree that. All right.
Okay. Low end, Sioux City. I got
Okay.
Sioux City. I got Lincoln. I got
Yes.
Gary. I
Yeah.
got to put Lake Country in there at this point too.
Yes, I agree with that.
So that leaves in the running for mid Milwaukee, Cleveland, Kansas City, Chicago, Winnipeg.
Yeah, I have Cleveland. Yeah, I have exactly that. I have Cleveland, Milwaukee, Chicago, Kansas City, Winnipeg, Gary as mid.
My hot take is I could have given Cleveland, could have pulled them out. I'm fascinated by Winnipeg, but I can get on board with the fact that they're just not as good as I want them to be good, but they're
They're not living up to that. I think they're the definition of a mid team, right? Where they'll go on a 8-game winning streak and then they'll get swept by Gary.
Going on a heater. Yep. Yeah, that's a really fair analysis.
So they fit the bill. So we'll agree on Winnipeg there. Kansas City is 500 and can't get their field in order. So I feel like that alone, yeah. Which if we didn't go so long in the Frontier League, we were going to have a serious Kansas City conversation. We'll move that to next week.
2 minutes here? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just shocked by this still playing out this way. Have you heard anything about this? Anything more that you can share?
Nothing at the moment. I haven't heard too much about it, but I have a feeling that, the show comes out at 10:30 on Saturday. I feel like by 5 o'clock Saturday night, I'll have a pretty good picture of what's going on there.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Feeling a bated breath, but from my perspective, I mean, it's getting. If for the things that I'm starting to see, like on Facebook, and take Facebook for what it is, but like it's starting to appear like they're calling these games pretty late, like pretty close to game time, considering it doesn't seem like anybody is acting like this game is actually going to happen. Like that seems
it would sure help if they had an actual head groundskeeper that wasn't just listed on the site but actually existed. That would be helpful.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Kansas City get together. Don't be an embarrassment. Like,
Yeah,
sorry,
the
like
guy that
one of the
handles the
best teams
facility
in the
knew what to
league
do with
together.
turf management. That'd be cool.
Getting a little frustrated, but getting a little frustrated with. I feel like we take Indy Ball more seriously than a lot of the organizations here.
Yes, we do. That's just why we should be running one of these teams.
Dude, light up the crack pipe and let's get after this thing. We're gonna need some energy.
Go ahead, find a guy we want. Give him the old.
They're like all their meetings are 5 hours and last till 3 a.m.
I could see it now. With the way we were in on this Hawk 2 a bit.
We are very in on it, huh?
Yeah, with the way we're in on it, we're going to turn to that one dude from the Firefest documentary with the bottles of water. We saw the player we wanted, and we did what we had to do.
Do what we had to do.
Look, we loved his OBS. It's great.
Big OPS guy. We sign people off of like advanced metrics or vibes. Yes.
Phenomenal. I just liked his name. I mean, like, look, I know Matt.
You're on it, buddy.
Yeah, it's like, look, I know Matt Sock didn't work out for 3 years in a row, but I just feel like this is the moment.
Trust the process.
Look, and he doesn't need a visa. Let's roll with it.
Honestly, that's it.
I feel like that's a decent argument to be had, honestly. But
not the worst
Chicago,
argument. Try that.
yeah, so Chicago, are they mid?
Mm-hmm.
4-game winning streak keeps them above 500 for now.
Yeah, they're mid though.
Okay, good. The last one that I think we'll have a short conversation about is Gary. I'm really torn on this. I could see putting them below mid still and just saying this is a hot streak, but I could also see this being them turning the corner, but that may just be me being an optimist.
Nah, they're below.
Below, okay.
Sorry, it's not super close in my opinion. It also, I mean, they're just not being the most impressive teams here. If they rip 2 out of 3 against even, I don't know. They got to show me a little more. Sorry, Gary. You've been getting a lot of love lately. It's time for a hard truth.
All right, so let's put it like this. In a month from now, when we come back to this, if they will beat some decent teams, but generally play 500 ball, we're going to bump them up to the mid category?
Yeah.
Okay. There's your mission. Play 500 and win 1 or 2 actual real series. And don't embarrass yourself.
It's not a life sentence for them yet.
Yes. They have the potential to move up. Milwaukee and Cleveland are the last 2 to discuss.
I guess mid. I can meet you on mid for Cleveland.
Okay. I could do that because Milwaukee, I'm willing to give some more leverage to, but with Cleveland, it just feels like they're so on again, off again, which is very mid behavior.
Yeah, I can again. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Then that brings us to the Pioneer League. We find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
All right. So I don't think there's too much here, really. Missoula, they're being themselves. I'm going to begin to start my is it time to rank them?
No.
26 and 7.
I think there's more of a path to being ranked this year than last year.
A lot of garbage in front of them. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, if we don't see someone step up over the weekend, you're going to see a Missoula vote on my ballot this week.
Oh, God. All right. Here we go again.
Get ready to add them to the graphic, baby.
God. I hate it so much. Not Missoula. It's just, I don't know. You know me. I think it's not the fault of anybody involved. It's just on roster restriction alone, they just don't. The number of things that would have to happen for me to be like, yes, this Pioneer League team over an Atlantic League team. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'd take Hagerstown. I don't think I'd take Missoula over Hagerstown.
That's what you say until they pull off a 3-game sweep.
Buddy. I don't know. I hate how negative that is because I am so impressed by Missoula. Like, I'm a huge Missoula person. Like, I'm about it, but it makes it sound like a Missoula.
Learn Montana, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Glacier's hot too. Well, not literally.
It's not only a good thing. Normally, Glacier's being hot's a bad thing, but they are.
A lot of talk about that, I think.
Glacier's hot recently. Lost 3 in a row.
Brutal. See, that's what happens when I look away for a series.
It's brutal out here.
Who are they playing? Remind me.
I'm
sorry, I thought you were looking at.
No, I wasn't. I was just looking at the standings, and now things not letting me click on the team. Oh God, this is bad. It's audible to the Hawk 2s.
Oh my God.
Same record as Glacier, though.
Yes.
Glacier has been beating. Oh God, they got swept by Missoula.
There you go. So I'm like, it's tough to hold it against them. But here's the thing, too. I'm starting to really question the number of teams.
Falls, dude,
yeah, they've run 5. They're 7-2. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God.
Missoula, please win the next 3. I want to rank you this week, boys.
I mean, so here's the problem for Glacier in my book. They are 12-3 against Great Falls, who is a Greek tragedy currently, and they're 8-10 against everyone else.
When are we gonna have this discussion?
I mean, most of what they do is punch Great Falls in the wiener.
Slap them in the PP.
Straight shot, dude, right in the PP.
No one slaps Jack Eichel in the PP.
That's funny.
Real GM quote, by the way.
Missoula, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are 7-9 against Great Falls.
Oh God,
which is rude. Or 7-2
Great Falls,
rather, right?
Yeah.
They lose to Great Falls? No way. No. That's bad math, right? They are. Bump, 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 but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0, 7-0, 7-1, 8. So they've won 8 of 9 against them. Rude. Which brings them to 17-5 even without them. Like, there's 2 leagues here. It's Missoula and Friends.
I was gonna say here, like, I'm ignoring Missoula for the minute because they're way above everybody and about to be the number 10 team by poll. But I'm also equally ignoring Great Falls because, like, man, knockout level bad here. But and I'm ignoring a lot of these mid teams in the middle here, which we're gonna agree on some of these mid teams in a moment.
I think so too.
But I do think the playoff race is interesting. I think Oakland being in it's interesting. I think Northern Colorado being it's interesting. Glacier and the Hawks too being in there are interesting. All for that last first half playoff spot. I do think this could be compelling. This is an interesting system. I hate the half system, trust me, but I do like every team fighting for 4 playoff spots, and 2 in each half makes it interesting. Having what will almost certainly be a wild card in there too kind of clears this thing up. And yeah, I like this a lot. It does seem like we have a competitive race. We said there's a lot of bad baseball going around here. I think the Pioneer League is kind of defying expectations and actually giving us some sort of quality baseball here when we have just about half the league being in playoff contention, or at the very least playing respectable ball. I mean, hell, I'm looking here. There's a lot of mid teams, don't get me mistaken, but even the next 3 that I really want to put as playoff contenders, I mean, they're still about 500. 2 of them are 500. So, like, that's not bad. It's not good. It's mid, but it's not bad. It's respectable baseball. Even Ogden's turned it around a bit and gotten themselves respectability at 14 and 19. Bad, below, mid, but still. The 3 remaining teams, I mean, Idaho Falls is only 1 game worse than Ogden is, but still, we're going to ignore what Grand Junction's doing until they learn how to hit 280 or better, because in this league, I kind of feel like we have to hold at least some sort of standard when it comes to the batting, so it's what it is.
I mean, I will mention that, one, Great Falls has now won 2 in a row. Get hot. Beyond that, oh my God, sorry, everything's running real slow on my end currently. So, Ogden, do you have Ogden's record in front of you?
14 and 19.
13 and 9 in the last 22.
Okay, so they're turning around.
Yeah, because that was a 1 in 10 start. So don't count them out. I mean, especially having the 2 half system, they're in it. That's the beauty of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I hate it so much.
Well, do you have anything more on the Pioneer League, or can we get to these mid teams?
No, I don't have a ton on them right now. I'm going to do a little bit more of a deep dive this coming week on it, whether it's my channel or it's just overbearing coverage on your poor podcast. I'm going to.
Next week's going to be a long one. Next week's going to be long because we have halves ending and whatnot, and that's going to be meaning a deep dive on just about everybody. So it'll be long. That's why I don't mind this episode being only about like 90 minutes. A, easier for me to edit. B, next week's going to be bad for me.
I'm so excited already.
I know, isn't it? Mid teams, we didn't have a mid report from last time because the league had just started. It was about a week old and it felt kind of stupid.
That's exciting.
So this is our first round of mid. I have Billings, YOLO, Rocky Mountain, and Ogden.
And you're mid. Okay, so I'm for high. So just knocking out teams. I got Missoula, Glacier. Yeah, I don't know who are your 4.
My 4 mid were Billings, YOLO, Rocky Mountain, Ogden.
Okay, sorry, that messed with me for a second.
Yeah. Pretty much anyone without a winning record and above being garbage.
I only confidently have Boise. Oh god, I really confidently have Missoula Glacier Boise out of mid territory for myself personally, and then also on the low end, then of course I have Great Falls, I've got Grand Junction, and I've got Idaho Falls. So I've got 6 in the conversation.
Okay, so we're really let's get the ones we agree on out of the way.
All right.
We agree on Ogden.
Mid, yes.
Okay, I think their recent stretches put
Mid
them,
with potential.
yes. If they keep it up, then I wouldn't be surprised to see them jump out, but they need to keep it up. Evan Parker is starting to get together, so good for him. Rocky Mountain is 500, definition of mid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
YOLO 500, same standard applies.
Pretty much, yes.
Yes, although I will say they are a good batting team, and I'd like to see how the pitching holds out.
Right.
I think they could overperform still.
I think YOLO is a high potential team. I think they're figuring it out. I'm so interested in them in the second half.
Yes, I agree 100% on that. Billings, 1 game under 500. I don't have much to say on them. Mid.
Yeah, mid as well. Just lost 2 to Great Falls.
Can't
do that.
That's highly suspect behavior. So NOCO and Oakland. That's where we have to discuss.
I don't see enough from Oakland at this point, man. I don't know.
See, the fact that they're right in the middle of a race, like game out of a playoff spot, keeps me thinking they're 5 above 500. I will admit,
how are you not going to put YOLO there? YOLO's literally between NOCO and Oakland. My weird thing that I'm dealing with here with Oakland, because I'm kind of going through their lineup and their roster, right? So I feel like every good has a bad, and that I feel like defines mid. Like I feel like the rotation's kind of impressive, but they're like bullpen's sketchy, and then there's nights where their bullpen's good, but like the rotation doesn't come up. And like same on like offense, they'll still drop like a weird 8-0 loss randomly. They're like, wait, what are we doing here? They'll give up 17, and then like they'll give up 6 runs over 3 games to NOCO. Like it's just inconsistent, and I think it's inconsistent against teams that are questionable mid to good. You know, I just the only team where I'm like, yeah, they're good that they played is Glacier, and Glacier punked them for 4 out of 6. So they played. Other than that, they've only played Rocky Mountain and YOLO since the opening series. Now they are playing NOCO. They've just taken 2 out of 3. They've got 3 more this weekend, so we'll learn more, and then it's back to YOLO. Then it's back to Great Falls. So I have no idea what they're, and YOLO again. Oh my god, for 12. God.
See, they're playing a bunch of. See, here's the thing.
So annoying.
They got punched by a good team, and they're handling themselves against mid teams. That kind of feels mid to me.
That's where I'm at. I don't have them low. I just have them mid.
Yeah.
But look, here's the thing though. If they take 5 out of 6, maybe even 4 out of 6, and then proceed to drop another good series on YOLO, I would probably consider them if we had this conversation next week.
Yeah, I could add Oakland to the list. I'll give you that. I didn't really do too much of a deep dive for the Pioneer. It was largely based off of where they were in relation to a playoff spot as we approached that end of the first half.
Yeah, I mean the offense is delivering, which but like in a way that is like still notable for the league. They don't score runs in a consistent way that I'd like to see, but like they're getting they have some good pieces. I don't know what to make of them. Their top end's really good, the bottom end's really bad, and it seems to be every single game for them. It's weird.
NOCO feels like the better version of them.
Well, so far not true, but I mean maybe this weekend will bear that out. I'll be interested to see the weekend because Oakland does tend to have late series difficulties. So that'll teach us a little bit more. Like, can they actually play a full 6 game set? Because NOCO will make you pay for it if you don't.
See, that's the thing. Like, I'm looking at NOCO being the better version of Oakland here. I'm beating the mid.
Sorry, pardon?
I'm saying NOCO is better than mid. Because they're the better version of Oakland.
Sorry, I was kind of hesitant that I actually did hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against it. I can go that way. If I'm willing to put Boise there, I think I need to be probably flexible in NOCO.
My thought process is the high end talent is better. The overall team metrics are better. They played a more diverse opponent list. I feel like there's enough there. Also, they have a pitcher with a sub 4 ERA, which in this,
my hesitation from NOCO is I think there's a chance that they're very vulnerable. I don't like how often they let guys on base. Like they put a lot of dudes on base, and they seem to be getting away with it right now. But I just feel like they're walking a tightrope. That's kind of where it is. For me, it's less what I've seen as opposed to like what I suspect.
I feel like that's a different conversation. Then I think
you might be right about that.
Like right now, if we're saying this team's mid, this team isn't, we have to go off of what they've done. Like, yes, you can use a trend as like, I at least view the trend more as a tiebreaker and like, is it not? They're in the spot they need to be in. They seem to be doing well enough. I just don't think I've seen enough to say that they are mid. I think they've done enough, at least for me, to say, yeah, they're better than mid. They've scored the second most runs in the league. As an offense, they're very productive in every sense. They have one of the better pitchers in the league. I just think they're a good enough team to beat the mid.
All right, man. I can go that way. That's fine.
All right, so then we agree with Billings, Yolo, Rocky Mount, Ogden, and Oakland.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So then that does it for the whole baseball conversation this week.
Good team. Look at us.
Yes. And there's really only one thing I have left on this show before we do the plugs and then get out of here and wrap up a show in under 2 hours, which is a nice change of pace.
Go team.
You know what happened a year ago?
What happened a year ago?
Take a guess. I want you to think for a second. Guess. What happened at the end of June last year?
Oh, God. Not Gastonia melting down.
Well, yes, but that's not what we're really looking for.
I don't know. I have the memory of a goldfish, I think, if it isn't for obscure baseball stuff.
Yes. So, I mean, it is kind of obscure baseball stuff in a sense.
Oh, then that's on me.
A year ago, we released episode 225. You know what was special about 225?
What was special about 225?
It was your first episode as an official co-host.
Oh, good team.
Hey, I remembered. You didn't, but you know.
Babe.
So yes, technically you hopped on like a few before, but it was still in the like, hey, you want to do this full time type of thing?
Full time, adorable.
I know. Yeah, like I do this full time.
It's my life.
This is the grind.
I was born in it.
Dude, that's the problem. The other two co-hosts, they ran from the grind. They switched teams. They jumped.
Can't hang.
They can't hang. Yeah, I'm calling one of the associate scouts for the Toronto Blue Jays a chump. Deal with it.
Jesus.
What even is a kettleer?
Oh my God. That's a whole other conversation. But shout out to the hosts we've lost along the way. Your loss is my sad gain.
And so I wanted to mention that. So
no, thanks, man. It's been a blast. I seriously have a very good time. Yeah. And we joke about a lot, but I enjoy our time. That's why we always spend way too damn long and why we sound exhausted by the time we even start the podcast. And for that, I'm not sorry.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's the thing, though. Like, we're going to start at 10. It's now 1:45.
Yeah, we're done.
Yes. And we've been recording since midnight. So, like.
Well, next week, let's we'll hash out a York or a Lancaster game you can come to, and you can come crash the house, and we'll crush beers and watch what could be very good or very bad baseball, depending on what we deal with.
I like this plan.
Let's go.
You're right. So, you've seen that you've been here for a year. Do you know what I'm about to ask you to do?
Plugs?
Yes, and then
actually got something this week too.
Oh wow! Look at you. Being productive. Isn't that cute?
I'm pretty excited because by the time it's out, I'll already have a video out talking about it, and I will have already started with this, but sort of reworking the Indie Ball Nation channel because I kept having life changes that changed my availability and what I was doing, and I haven't figured out how I can do content that works. So starting, I guess, Friday, day before this, we'll start up on this. We're twice a week, Monday/Tuesday, depending on where the news is.
Early week.
Friday, be doing a podcast, so 2 a week, and then doing sporadic YouTube content based on what I'm interested in, which I'll be doing some stuff coming up for mid-season All-Stars, and then daily just doing the quick recap videos in 90 seconds talking about each league. So before those will be on Instagram. So any donation for all of that. Pretty happy about it because I finally found some things that work for my just schedule. They can only describe as dumb.
Proud of you.
Thanks, man. Got moments. Look at me living life.
Being productive, a member of society.
Recording stuff, crying into a microphone.
Damn. Indie Ball Pod, Twitter, and then Indie Ball Report everywhere else. I don't make promises on content. I started and it had a whole video literally scripted out. And then I looked at it, I was like, it's supposed to be a third of the season review, and we're at the halfway mark by the time this thing comes out. So it's just like, it feels kind of stupid to make graphics and everything for this, release it like less than a week for the halfway mark.
Yeah, dude. Been there.
Didn't help too that two of the players I was highlighting got signed. So congrats, Sealer.
It would have made you look so smart.
But like, he's having a great year. The Tigers agreed.
And that's the end of that.
Exactly. And just like that's the end of the show too. And until next time, don't forget to play ball.